April the 22nd, 2026. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. We begin tonight with rapidly escalating tensions in the Middle East that could impact every one of us at the gas pump and far beyond. Just yesterday, President Donald Trump announced he is extending the U.S.-Iran ceasefire indefinitely. He made his decision at the request of Pakistan's leadership. Trump stated that Iran's government is seriously fractured right now, and the United States will wait until Tehran can present a single, unified proposal to end the conflict. However, and this is critical, the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports, including key areas in the Strait of Hormuz, remains fully in effect. The president is keeping maximum economic pressure in place. Iran has rejected this approach. They have refused to return to the negotiating table, calling the blockade an act of war and demanding it be lifted first. As a result, the planned second round of peace talks, which were supposed to involve Vice President J.D. Vance and Iranian officials in Pakistan, have now been postponed indefinitely. Instead of talking peace, Iran chose escalation. Early this morning, Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps fired at least 3 commercial container ships in or near the Strait of Hormuz. They damaged the vessels and seized 2 of them. The ships involved were the MSC Francesca, a Panama-flagged vessel operated by Mediterranean Shipping Company, and Epaminondas, a Liberia-flagged Greek-owned ship also operated by MSC. A third vessel was targeted and left disabled. Iran claims the ships were sailing without required permits. A UK... Seriously. You don't have permits. A UK maritime agency has already confirmed the incidents. This is a direct challenge to global shipping. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical choke points. Roughly 1/5 of the planet's oil supply passes through it every single day. Any sustained disruption here could trigger a major fuel crisis and send energy prices skyrocketing worldwide. We are also seeing related incidents, Iranian strikes reported in Kurdistan region of Iraq, and sadly, a French UNIFIL peacekeeper has died from wounds sustained in Lebanon. This situation is fragile and moving quickly. Pakistan is still trying to mediate, but both sides are digging in. The U.S. is holding firm on the blockade, while Iran is showing it can strike back at international shipping. Oil markets are already reacting with nervousness, and we will continue to monitor this story very closely for any further developments. So, as many of you know, events in the Middle East often carry deep prophetic significance. We are watching to see how these tensions involving Israel's neighbors, global energy, and major world powers may align with the unfolding of end-time scripture. The Bible warns of wars and rumors of wars, and we are certainly seeing that in real time. President Trump continues to play a central role on the world stage, and we will keep you updated on any statements or actions from him or Elon Musk regarding these unfolding events. So stay prayerful, stay informed, and we'll have more on this and other stories once we get into the Daily Torment Report.
Shadows deep, through bitter years, I see your strength, I see your tears, the weight of loss, the trials fire, still you rise, reaching higher. They pressed you down, they closed you in, but you endured, you would not bend. Through fleeting wealth and fleeting pain, you held your ground, you bore the strain. Hold on, hold
All right, let's see what updates we got from Donald Trump himself. And we'll start with his timeline. So, posted about an hour ago, Molly Hemingway, an extraordinarily highly respected commentator, and a truly good person, has written a powerful new book, Alito, the justice who reshaped the Supreme Court and restored the Constitution. Justice Alito understands the wisdom and courage required to uphold the rule of law and honor our Constitution. As our founders intended, he is an incredible justice and will go down as one of the best ever. Everyone would do well to read this book, and learn from his example. Get your copy today. Okay. All right, moving on. You can't compromise on sanity and common sense. 100%. Exclusive Breaking the Law expose reveals Biden White House orchestrated lawfare against Trump to rig the 2024 election. Of course they did. Let's see. We import the third world and force working class Americans to feed and house them at gunpoint. Civilizational suicide, indeed. Let's see. All right. Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Lindsey Graham have taken a critical first step to passing another reconciliation bill to fund our great Border Patrol and ICE agents. The radical left Democrats and their so-called leader, crying Chuck Schumer, one of the most incompetent senators in American history, will try to offer amendments during this process to divide Republicans. Republicans must stick together and unify to get this done and to keep America safe, something which the Democrats don't care about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Let's see. A rigged election took place last night in the great Commonwealth of Virginia. All day long, Republicans were winning. The spirit was unbelievable until the very end, when, of course, there was a massive mail-in ballot drop where have I heard that one before? And the Democrats eked out another crooked victory. 6-5 goes to 10-1, and yet the presidential election in November was very close to a 50-50 split. In addition to everything else, the language and the referendum was purposely unintelligible and deceptive. As everyone knows, I am an extraordinarily brilliant person, and even I had no idea what the hell they were talking about in the referendum. And neither do they. Let's see if the courts will fix this travesty of justice. President Donald J. Trump. They're still up to their shenanigans. Very good news. I have just been informed that 8 women protesters who were going to be executed tonight in Iran will no longer be killed. 4 will be released immediately, and 4 will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. I very much appreciate that Iran and its leaders respected my request as President of the United States and terminated the planned execution. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. To the Iranian leaders, who will soon be in negotiations with my representatives, I would greatly appreciate the release of these women. Oh, this was in response to this. Didn't they do this before where they said that they were releasing somebody and then they ended up killing them, like the soccer player or something? Unbelievable travesties. Definitely, when you think about what's going on in Iran, there's no doubt that they're going through a great tribulation. No doubt. The New York Times, key ratings data for season 2000. Oh, is this for The Apprentice? Oh, good Lord. Average viewership, finale viewers, 28 million. Key demographic 18 to 49. Competition, it frequently beat top-rated shows like CSI and Survivor. The show became a cultural phenomenon, establishing Donald Trump as a major reality TV personality and making the boardroom, "you're fired" phrase, a staple of American television. Last season of My Apprentice juggernaut. Very cool. Very cool. It's interesting to see what he went through, what God put him through to prepare him for being the president that he is today. It's training. It's all training. All of our lives are. When you think about it, God is in control. It's all training for, who we're going to be when it really matters. And it's only just the beginning. The beautiful thing that was accomplished in Jesus Christ is that death has been overcome. And we're going to get to live life for eternity. So who you are, the foundation of who you are, gives you your start in that eternity. That's exciting. Let's see. How can the Democrats not like how the U.S. Supreme Court votes? The Democrat justices stick together like glue, never failing to wander from the warped and perverse policies, ideas, and cases put before them. They always vote as a group or block, even that new low IQ person that somehow found her way to the bench, Sleepy Joe. The Republican justices don't stick together. They give the Democrats win after win, like a $159 billion pile of cash on a completely ridiculous tariff decision, and nasty one-sided questions on the country-destroying subject of birthright citizenship, something which virtually no other country in the world is stupid enough to allow. It was meant for the babies of slaves, not for the babies of Chinese billionaires. No, certain Republican justices have just gone weak. Stupid and bad, completely violating what they supposedly stood for, handing over $159 billion in tariff refunds to people who have been ripping off our country for years is unexplainable. One little sentence would have stopped this record-setting payment from having to be made. It is a travesty. Their tariff decision was an unnecessary and expensive slap in the face to the USA, and a giant victory for its opponents. If they rule against our country on birthright citizenship, which they probably will, it will be even worse, if that's possible. It will cost America massive amounts of money, but more importantly, it will cost America its dignity. No, the radical left Democrats don't need a pack the court. It's already packed. President Donald J. Trump. Yikes. Honestly, I think it's just the thieves and the perjurers who swear falsely by God's name who are exposing themselves so that they can be gathered up and burned. This, justice will not be withheld from them. Your day is coming, people. Very soon, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords is on his way to take up his throne here on Earth. Mark Kelly needs to be held accountable. Lock him up. Former Navy SEAL Eli Crane lights into Mark Kelly over his treasonous stunt. What is this about?
My last job in the Navy was in the SEAL teams. My job was to train and coach SEALs on the West Coast on how to do VBSS, so a little bit of experience with what you guys are doing, and I appreciate I know that's a very complicated mission set, and I appreciate all the hard work that you guys do. Admiral, I want to ask you if you believe that the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, under Article 2 of the Constitution, has broad executive powers for maritime security. Do you recognize that, sir?
Yes, I recognize that.
Do you recognize that the President may direct maritime interdictions when enforcing sanctions or national security measures, Admiral?
Yes, I do. We follow that.
Okay. So one of the things that's concerned me as a former service member myself is a video that was made by Senator Mark Kelly and several other senators who just a couple months ago, they made a video to tell service members that they don't need to follow unlawful orders. Admiral, are you familiar with this video?
I have not seen the video itself. I was following the news story, obviously, and the escalation of the decision.
It made national news, did it not, Admiral?
It did indeed.
Did you or any of the other high-ranking Coast Guard officers that you work with fear that a video like that might undermine your chain of command?
From my standpoint, I have found that our service members will follow lawful orders if they, as given.
I find it interesting, Admiral, that I didn't see any videos made like that from members of Congress during the Biden administration. I want to submit an article for the record. This is from CNN. Biden finalizes new rules for U.S. drone strikes. President Joe Biden has signed a long-awaited classified policy tightening the rules for the CIA and Pentagon to carry out deadly drone strikes and commando raids conducted outside of traditional war zones, U.S. officials said on Friday. This was October 7th, 2022. Ooh. Did you notice that no members of Congress, including Senator Kelly, made any videos during this time, Admiral?
I'm not familiar with that article.
But you didn't see any videos, did you? I didn't.
Not that I recall, no.
As service members, we tend to follow these types of things, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I found that very interesting that they weren't making videos during that time frame about whether or not service members follow lawful orders or not. And I think we all know that, right, Admiral? Don't we get that training in basic training that we're not supposed to follow unlawful orders?
Yeah. Absolutely. And at all the session sources, that is what we train our personnel.
Yeah. So did you find that video a little bit odd, knowing that we all know that?
I find that it's, for me, as I reflect on it, I think it's unnecessary. I think our personnel will know to follow lawful orders and to question unlawful orders.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Admiral, Congress delivered for you guys in a pretty big way during the reconciliation package. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
We gave you about $25 billion. Is that correct?
Yes, generational change for the Coast Guard, Congressman.
And you guys had about $7 billion in maintenance backlog for infrastructure. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
How do you see the Coast Guard deploying that money to make sure that the Coast Guard is ready to carry out the nation's national security and homeland security needs in the next couple years?
Under Force Design 28, Congressman, we have reorganized to ensure that the Coast Guard can obligate all of those funds quickly. We're not waiting for the 5 years that they're available to us. We want to spend those right away on maintenance, on shore infrastructure, to get after the problems that we have.
Thank you. My last question for you, Admiral, is: do you feel in the last couple months with the boat strikes and everything else going on, do you feel like you have given orders to your men to carry out any of these strikes, any of these interdictions that have been deemed unlawful?
The Department of War has had the lead for these kinetic strikes. The Coast Guard has not been involved with them, so I can answer that we have not. I have not felt that way at all.
Getting gathered up. We need a song about burning the tears. Burning the tears. All right, what will happen next? Endgame and final warning.
Iran put their head right into a noose. They said, we're going to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and only us can determine who gets in and who gets out, and they have to be pro-Iranian. And we're not going to let Gulf states sell oil. Ha, ha, ha. And everybody said, oh, that was brilliant. The left went crazy. He was delighted. Oh, my gosh. The Pentagon was caught unprepared. The Pentagon had been preparing that for 50 years. Under Reagan, they opened it. They know how to do it.
Yeah.
So all that Trump said is, that's a good idea.
Let's do it.
Shut down the strait and let in the good guys and stop the bad guys. But your bad guys are our good guys, and your good guys are our bad guys. So we're going to take a page out of your book, and we're not going to let in anybody anywhere near Iran. And we're going to let in everybody else. And the difference between the strategies is not just that we flipped it, but you have no wherewithal. PT boats and a bunch of mines won't stop us. But we have a huge fleet, and that will stop you from stopping us. And if you decide that you want to send the remnants of your missiles into the Gulf or Israel or at our fleet, go ahead, because we haven't even decided to hit dual-use targets yet. We're not like Barack Obama in Libya and taking out television stations and ports. We're not like Bill Clinton in Serbia that destroyed every bridge on the Danube and took out their grid of 1.5 million people. We're not Harry Truman that destroyed all the hydroelectric plants in North Korea. We let you off easy. Well, it doesn't mean there's not an American tradition of hitting dual-use targets. So we're going to hit your electrical and put you in darkness. And we're going to hit Cargigan or take it. We'll either take the oil and rob it from you or take it. And what was the result of all that in the last 48 hours? Ships are coming in that we let, and ships are not coming in that we don't let. And people, economists at the major research universities in Europe, the United States, have now flipped on a dime, and they're actually looking in empirical fashion at last at what this means. And the ranges are absolutely stunning. $400 million and more per day lost economically to Iran, whether that's lack of oil sales or petrochemical sales or lack of key imported mechanical goods, electrical goods that keep their infrastructure running, or food. They're in dire straits. They're losing all of their income from the Strait of Hormuz, and they're losing all of their income from the petrochemical and oil. And they were broke to begin with, and they can't do anything about it because Trump did it sequentially. Military first, chance of negotiation second, put the boot on the neck third. So what is going to happen now? See two things, possibly three. They may decide they want to go down in a blaze of glory and empty their arsenal of remnant ballistic missiles and drones. If they do that, they will be in darkness, and they will have no oil for the next 10 years. So that we'll see if there's saner heads among them. Number two, they have a choice to agree to negotiations, and this time they're not going to have every click saying 15 here and 10 demands here. And no, they're just going to have 10. And if they don't abide by them, the United States can force them to abide by them. Or they can just simply give up. No demands, nothing. Just say, we're done. And they're going to have and what I meant by give up is the regime gives up. I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but the people take over. All of those are favorable results for us.
Yeah.
And so to conclude, I don't think that it's a very wise thing every 24 hours to be glued to your computer or the television, and whatever a pundit on the left or a Democratic senator says or a disgruntled person on the right says, then take that as gospel and not look at the data, not look at the evidence that's out there to examine, both, as I said, empirically or historically. Because if you did do that, you could see there was very, very little chance of winning. There's only one last caveat. Iran is ruined militarily, and it's going to be ruined economically if it doesn't give in. And they're now going to negotiate on with a different attitude. If you believe that they will abide by a demand that we've given them, no nuclear material for 20 years, whatever it is, then you have to believe that they will never break their word. I don't think they've ever kept their word. And number two, that there will be a president someday like Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Cory Booker, and people of that caliber and mindset would enforce every one of those negotiated demands. And I don't think they will ever tell the truth or honor any of their commitments. And I don't think that the next left-wing or Democratic president would ever force them to.
Agreed.
Which means we better get them to surrender unconditionally or face economic ruin, which will usher in a regime change. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. It's like all or nothing. That's kind of why I wonder if this isn't that moment where when they say peace and safety, like if they're not going to come out, throw up their hands and say we give up, and then that's when they say now there's peace and the people are safe in Iran, and then that's when we find out, oh, they've had a nuclear weapon all along. Seems like that's where we're heading. Right. Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining they are not getting paid. Save our souls. Good. Stop working for the IRGC. Give up. Let the people take over. I imagine the people are hurting too. Hopefully they prepared, if at all possible. What is this?
Jim Hansen's a former U.S. Army Special Forces and Chief Strategist for the Middle East Forum. Jim, what do you think's going on today in Tehran?
I think they are scrambling. And anybody who says this fracture between the religious leadership and the military and their civilian political leadership is a bad thing doesn't understand how to break a tyrannical regime. Of course, we want them arguing with each other. And obviously, I think the military will come out on top. As you said, they do have the guns. But in the end, they don't have much in the way of weapons left. And anytime they poke any of those weapons out of their holes, we destroy them. So they've got a very short window before they run out of money. They run out of the ability to pump oil. They already can't sell it. And there's not any money coming in to run the regime. Anybody who thinks they're ahead in this game is not paying attention.
So is it more of a negotiating tactic, or is it them trying to consolidate power as they lead negotiations going forward?
They want the world and anybody else to think that they are ahead. That's why you hear them say things. Oh, 26 ships broke the blockade. Well, no, 26 ships got turned back, and the 27th got a free engine room redecoration courtesy of a USS Destroyer's 5-inch gun. Free ventilation. That's not how you win. Next, we take a tanker, and now we've got 2 million barrels of free oil. They don't have any way to come out ahead in the blockade game. They're wrong if they can think they can wait President Trump out. And if he has to start breaking some more of their stuff to emphasize the point, we have plenty of ways to do that. They have nothing but maybe an opportunity to attack a ship trying to transit the strait.
And they don't have a lot of time left. You heard Bessent say these oil wells, they're going to fill up and they're going to have to shuttle production soon. Do you think the president waits and sees how things unfold inside Tehran, or do you think he needs to give them a little nudge?
Yeah, here's the thing. Anything the president blows up right now causes damage for the Iranian people. And he's got the opportunity. Yeah. There was a point there where I guess the defeat mongers thought they were going to convince the world that President Trump had to stop this because of the pressure. We can absorb some short-term oil price jumps, and the political pressure at home is not going to change President Trump's calculation. He can beat them at this game. The fewer things he blows up from here going forward, the better. But they shouldn't think for a second he will not give them an object lesson in how to make the rubble bounce.
And the United States and Israel have been accumulating so much intelligence over the last 2 weeks that whatever fighting does break out will end pretty quickly. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, we've got all of their people identified. If we wanted to, we could take out another layer of their leadership again. But we need somebody to go ahead and quasi-surrender, whatever this ends up being. So if they want to try they can't fight in the normal use of that word. They can cause damage. They can be a terrorist state breaking other people's things, but they can't take us on force. And if they want to go ahead and let the IRGC take a run at being the heads of a military state as opposed to a theocracy, that will be a very short-lived event.
Yes, indeed. Ooh, this is a long one. Probably not going to listen to this whole thing, but let's see what it starts with.
Joining me now to break that news, as he always does, is my favorite John Solomon, founder of Just the News. John, first of all, before we get into their latest and greatest, what is ActBlue specifically?
It is the largest Democratic online fundraising machine in America. It moves hundreds of millions of dollars of small donations, online donations, to Democrat and liberal causes every election cycle. It is the juggernaut of the Democratic fundraising machine these days.
I remember when we had Hurricane Harvey down in my neck of the woods in Houston, and Democrats famously fundraised to help those hurricane victims, and instead the money went to ActBlue. That's just how these people operate. Now, what's the latest and greatest?
Well, there have been 3 investigations ongoing. There's one in the Senate, one in the FBI and Justice Department, and then one in the House. Yesterday, the House, 3 separate committees of the United States House of Representatives, the Judiciary Committee, Administration Committee, and the Oversight Committee, sent a letter to ActBlue saying, hey, we think you misled us. We think you've been lying about this, and we're going to bring you in for further depositions. Now, as part of that, they also released a report. The report said that all of the legal compliance officers for ActBlue, the lawyers who were supposed to keep ActBlue out of trouble, all took the Fifth Amendment when being questioned about the various practices designed to keep illegal foreign money and excessive donations from moving through the platform to Democrat and liberal causes. That is not a good sign if you're ActBlue, if your lawyers lawyer up and take the Fifth Amendment. The third element of that is that the report hinted at some pretty significant transactions, that ActBlue became aware at various times that foreign money and other illicit transactions were coming through their platform, but didn't tighten up their fraud prevention tactics. In fact, they did the opposite. They downgraded their fraud prevention tactics, almost seeming to enable fraud to occur on the platform easier. One of the things they got rid of and didn't use for most of the 2024 election campaign, that little three number code that you have in the back of your credit card, that's probably the biggest, the CVV it's called, the biggest fraud prevention opportunity that everybody has. If you don't have the code, you don't have the card, you're not the person. For some reason, ActBlue got rid of that for a long period of time until they were called out on it after a series of stories by Just the News in the summer of 2024. Those are really red flags. And if that isn't enough to make you suspicious about ActBlue, yesterday the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, sued ActBlue, saying that they had misled the state in its investigation and that they likely engaged in improper fundraising.
Thieves and perjurers. President Trump has been preparing for this war with Iran for over 40 years. The media is lying. President Trump has never changed his stance on Iran.
This country sits back and allows a country such as Iran to hold our hostages, to my way of thinking, is a horror.
Obviously, you're advocating that we should have gone in there with troops, etc., and brought our boys out.
I absolutely feel that, yes. I don't think there's any question. There's no question in my mind. I think right now would be an oil-rich nation, and I believe that we should have done it, and I'm very disappointed that we didn't do it.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
You're going to have a war by being weak. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
Nearly 40 years ago, Trump saying, I'd be harsh on Iran. They've been beating us psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot at one of our men or ships, and I'd do a number on Karg Island. I'd go in and take it. Iran can't even beat Iraq, yet they push the United States around. It'd be good for the world to take them on.
Fair enough.
And now, 40 years later, you're seeing Trump's vision play out in real time. Just as Ronald Reagan spent years before his presidency thinking about how to bring down the Soviet empire, Trump did the same with Iran's terror empire. So the moment of reckoning has arrived for Iran's regime.
Working on changing the kingdoms of this world to be the kingdoms of our God and his Messiah. I don't know who she is, but she is 100% correct. Sassafras 84. I don't care about your political. I don't care what political party you are. You should be speaking up about this. She is right. Where are the feminists? Where's the Pope? Where are the other world leaders? Where are the Democrats? Where's Kamala, the person you voted for? Why are you quiet? The Iranian regime is killing their people. Speak up. Crimes against humanity.
Donald Trump is the only one helping these people in Iran. So Elizabeth Banks This woman, Bita, is about to be gang raped and publicly executed, and so are 3 more women. And they have been doing this to many young people. Every single day, 1 or 2 public executions. So you're sitting there on your cushy couch talking about Kamala Harris. You claim to be a feminist. You claim to be a humanitarian. Where are you when the women need you? You are a fake. You are a hypocrite. You're of no help to anyone. So if you claim to be a feminist, you claim to be a humanitarian, you claim to be a good person, America, Iran isn't just a military war or peace in the Middle East or oil stabilization. This is a humanitarian issue. They are killing young people every single day. And the only president, the only one that has helped is President Trump.
Wow. Yeah, I'm going to get a copyright for that music. I'm going to have to pull it out later, but worth it. That was definitely worth it. Kind of makes you wonder if they're because seal number 5 is the martyrs. We got to wait a little bit longer till the martyrs are killed. I wonder if some of them are martyrs since they are being killed. DOJ, Brennan, and Comey under criminal investigation. FBI has launched an official criminal investigation on you both. We the people want accountability now. I love that Donald Trump posted that. All right, what's this about?
All right, we have a Fox News alert. James Brennan and James Comey are likely regretting going all in on the Russia hoax now because DOJ sources are telling Fox Digital that the FBI indeed has launched a criminal investigation into the former CIA director and former FBI director for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe and all the alleged false statements made to Congress. The full scope of the investigation is unclear right now, but 2 sources describe the FBI's view of the duo's interactions as, quote, a conspiracy. Here to break it down, Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law prof and Fox News contributor. Jonathan, we've been hearing for some time about Brennan's alleged perjury over his role in the Steele dossier and the advancement of that, and perhaps understanding that that was not credible. Your reaction tonight to this stunning development?
Well, it's obviously a major development. These are 2 of the top people in the American intelligence system. And there have been these long unanswered questions about what they told Congress. At points, they both seem to adopt the Sergeant Schultz approach of, I knew nothing. If only I knew, I would have done something. That didn't strike many as being very credible. Both of these tend to be somewhat of micromanagers. They take pride in the fact that they followed the details of their departments. And it all comes down particularly to a period in 2017, an intelligence community assessment, an ICA, that went out and viewed the Steele dossier, that infamous dossier funded by the Clinton campaign, as credible. And that, in fact, Steele was credible. They knew that was not true. The CIA had already said that it had great misgivings about the Steele dossier. Even though the Clinton campaign was denying to reporters that it funded the dossier, it was in fact funded through the law firm of the Clinton that the Clinton campaign used. And so there's a lot of questions here as to why particularly Comey, for example, signed off on these FISA warrants, these secret court warrants to conduct this surveillance. The other thing, by the way, they knew very early on was that Carter Page, who was such a significant figure in the Steele dossier and the whole Russian hoax, was not only not a Russian spy, but was actually a CIA asset. And so the CIA told the FBI, you're on the wrong road here. You're going after someone who is assisting us. All of that somehow got buried. And what came to the surface was the Steele dossier, which was not only not verified, it had been really shredded by many people in the Intelligence Committee.
Yeah, and Comey claimed that it was Papadopoulos, that poor hapless kid
right.
who was... That Papadopoulos, his interactions with the Russians started the whole thing, and it was long before the dossier. But this was Comey testifying back in 2020 about this. Watch.
It was done by the book. It was appropriate, and it was essential that it be done.
Okay. So you're proud of it?
overall, I'm proud of the work. There's no indication, and the Inspector General would say it if he found it, that people were doing bad things on purpose, but that doesn't make it any less concerning. This was an investigation that was appropriately predicated and opened, that had to be opened.
Jonathan, it had to be opened. Supercilious doesn't begin to describe him. So dismissive.
Now, I remember listening to that testimony and just almost falling out of my chair. I mean, virtually everything he said was untrue. In fact, the IG reports shredded the FBI and said that they didn't follow protocol, that they ignored counterintelligence, that they pushed the Steele dossier forward. And these were two of the key individuals who did that. So the question is, does any of this trick the wire to perjury? And both of these are sophisticated players. You'll notice that they're very careful in how they word this. Comey is very careful to say that there wasn't basically malicious intent, not that there weren't mistakes. And time again, Comey portrayed himself as ignorant of all of these countervailing sources.
Well, and again, the Brennan perjury questions have been swirling about for years and years. This is like one big flashback for both of us. Jonathan, thank you very much.
Yep. Can't wait to see some justice dished out. Piping hot. Ooh, what's this?
It should shake every single American in their shoes. I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016. We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history. James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting in July 28th in the Oval Office. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years. It undermined a sitting duly elected president. It sabotaged administration. It framed a three-star general. It destroyed and ripped this country apart. We had a constitutional crisis, the likes of which I don't think any American can fully comprehend. It is atrocious, and every single one of them must be held accountable.
Oh, the memories of those times. It was a spiritual time. The attacks on Donald Trump. Part of the reason why so many people still hate him to this day. Matter of fact, I still have to go through my Facebook and from time to time mute the people who have got deeply, deeply rooted Trump derangement syndrome, to where they are still holding on to the lies from this period of time. They refuse to let them go. They believe it with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. It is so disappointing. Very difficult to get through. I basically once a month get to go send a word of kindness and update and hope they've changed. Every time that little 30-day mute comes off. Unbelievable. Good. I hope they prosecute him, and I hope they get to the bottom of it, and I hope all the information comes out, and maybe it'll finally wake up some of those people with Trump derangement syndrome. Although it does say that they rise up and kill the two witnesses, so I doubt we're ever going to see a remedy to Trump derangement syndrome until Christ returns. Then we'll see it. Iran is collapsing financially. They want the Strait of Hormuz opened immediately, starving for cash, losing $500 million a day. Military and police complaining that they are not getting paid. Already saw that. Terrible. Let's see. Selena Zito, Trump has a way with Pennsylvania. The interview shows why. Iran doesn't want the Strait of Hormuz closed. They want it open so they can make $500 million a day. Who wouldn't? Which is, therefore, what they are losing if it is closed. They only say they want it closed because I have totally blockaded closed. So they merely want to save face. People approached me 4 days ago saying, sir, Iran wants to open the strait immediately. But if we do that, there can never be a deal with Iran unless we blow up the rest of their country. Their leaders included President Donald J. Trump. Wacko James Carville, a so-called Democrat strategist, wants the Democrats to make D.C. and Puerto Rico states and, most importantly, pack the Supreme Court, putting 13 justices on the court. Other Dems want 21 justices. If they pull off adding these two states, these country-destroying sleazebags will dominate politics in America. If we even have a nation left, for 100 years, terminate the filibuster. They are already doing great with the Supreme Court. However, the Democrat justices stick together like glue, totally loyal to the people and ideology that got them there. They are an immovable force, and there is nothing that can be done to change that. Frankly, I respect that a lot. Certain Republican appointees let Democrats push them around, always wanting to be popular, politically correct, or even worse, wanting to show how independent they are, with very little loyalty to the man who appointed them, or more importantly, the ideology from which they came to be nominated and confirmed. Everyone knows that. As an example, birthright citizenship, which is unconditional and absent from any other developed or successful country, is a disaster for the United States of America. No country can be successful with such an anchor wrapped firmly around its neck, but based on the questioning by Republican-nominated justices that I watched firsthand in the court, we lose. As another example, if the Supreme Court put in one sentence stating that any money paid in tariffs to the United States of America to this point does not have to be returned to many people who hate our country, they would have saved American taxpayers minimum $159 billion. All they had to do was read the dissent, written by Justice Kavanaugh. It was a close call. It was not a 9-0 decision. What a difference it would have made for our country. I put certain people on the United States Supreme Court who totally misrepresented who they were and the true ideology for which they stand. President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, people aren't going to change. You know, these things must take place. They must take place. The Wall Street Journal has lost its way. An idiot on the Wall Street Journal editorial board named Elliot Kaufman just wrote an op-ed entitled "The Iranians Take Trump for a Sucker." Really? For 47 years, they have killed our people and many others and taken advantage of every president except me. And what did I give them? A country in tatters. Their entire Navy is at the bottom of the sea. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and radar is wiped out. Their nuclear labs and storage areas were obliterated late one dark June. I think we read this already. Yeah. Yeah, we did. We totally read this already. Are we into yesterday's posts? My administration just delivered a big, yep, read that one. Based on fractured, yep, we read that. Okay, well, I guess we're technically done. Yeah, there's poison ivies. All righty. All right, let's move on to Elon. All right. Let's do a refresh here. Posted 5 hours ago. China backs orbital data center starting with $8.4 billion in credit lines. Q1 2026 shareholders update. We continue to make meaningful progress on the build-out of the new infrastructure and AI software that underpins our robotaxi and future robotics businesses. I'm kind of curious on how that works with, so apparently you can buy the robotaxis, and when you put them in service, you collect a percentage of the money. The percentage of it goes to Tesla. You obviously have to pay for insurance and charging, and I think even to have it in the fleet. But people have done the math. It is supposed to be profitable at a very minimum level, like 5 to 10 rides per day. It's profitable, or breaks even. But it's like 5 rides, it's breaks even. 10, it starts to become profitable. So if you were to buy like a fleet of these robo-taxis, you know what would be an interesting business? I probably shouldn't give this away. But like if you could like maybe somebody who already owns these businesses. Like if you own a parking garage where you could park all these robo-taxis so that people could call them from one location. That could be an interesting business. Hate crimes, SPLC. The real picture, there's just a fake. Fraud, 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 fraud. For years, the left said replacement migration was a conspiracy theory, but as it turns out, it was a real conspiracy led by Gavin Newsom, the state of California, and a circle of radical left-wing NGOs. Exclusive, Gavin Newsom has granted nearly $1 billion to left-wing NGOs that have helped illegal aliens across the border, organized anti-ICE street protests, and brought in undocumented migrants. You know, the one thing we do know, based on where we are in the timeline of events, we do know that everything that happens now is leading up to that beast, that government from the land. So some kind of a kingdom. So it makes sense that nations and alliances are destroyed during this period of time. It may very well be that I don't know, the Democrats take over, turn it into a one world government. Certainly seems like that's coming. A one world government, which will very likely implement artificial intelligence in order to force compliance in this new world order. If you notice, the Tesla terror against Elon really heated up when he started exposing NGOs and making public aware of their taxpayer scams. Correct. Yeah, that's one of the things that made him tormenting the world, which other prominent non-profits and NGOs are doing, and who is paying for it. Should I start naming the... You know what he should do? He should start another company. He should start a government company, and they should reward him with a percentage of the fraud that he exposes. Maybe he could go in on this with Nick Sorter. Is it? It's not Nick Sorter. Nick Shirley. He could go in on this with Nick Shirley. Have Nick Shirley run the program, and they win a percentage of the fraud that they expose, that they get back, because he's so good at running his businesses. He needs a business that like chases. I mean, I guess that's what Doge was. I don't know. It's like he doesn't seem to be, from what I understand, Doge continues to rage on doing its thing today, but you don't see him as involved, and therefore it's not as visible. So it's kind of like we feel like we're blind. News: U.S. birth rates hit record low as abortion numbers rise. 1.1 abortions annually, one of the highest levels in recent years. 21% since 2020. Fertility rates fall to 1.57 births per woman. The sun rounds up to 100% of energy in our solar system, even if Jupiter and all non-solar mass is burned. Solar met 75% of global electricity demand growth in 2025. Clean power covered all new demand. So fossil generation didn't rise for the first time since 2020. Huh, cool. Which other prominent nonprofit NGOs are doing this? Many. But anyhow, Justice Department announces indictments against SPLC. Our indictment alleges SPLC secretly funneled more than $3 million in funds to members of white supremacists. Yeah, I imagine that there are many that are doing that. Some SPLC donors were tricked into funding white nationalist hate groups. That's bad. Some SPLC donors knew they were funding white nationalist hate groups. That's worse. What did they know, and when they know it, who was a dupe and who was complicit? These are the answers we want to know. If you say Haiti is a hellhole, the left says, how dare you say that? Haiti is a beautiful country. If you say Haitian illegals need to get back home, the left says, how dare you? We would be sending them back to a life of misery, hardship, and death. True. They're hypocrites. Why pay people to be racist so we can fight racism? Their scam worked for decades. Well, credit where credit is due. What is this? Alex Jones, Charlottesville, was a false flag run by SPLC operative who hired actors to pose as Nazis. So they advertise, and they have a Unite the Right, Don't Be Racist rally. And, of course, these guys with torches come, and you look them up. Most of them are actors. You can even look up their names. They're Democratic Party operatives. They've been caught painting swastikas on black people's places and burning crosses. And they're always caught. Who does that? Even if you're an actor, it seems like you would have a moral obligation to not participate in that kind of stuff. Data centers are now 7% of total U.S. power demand. Democrats in Virginia today are voting to strip democracy from process, eliminating Republican voices. I think this is what Trump was referring to, was cheating. It switched too quickly. They are fascist and unrepentant. The actions of Texas or any other state are immaterial to the concept of democracy in Virginia. Yeah, didn't they get a ballot load in the middle of the night like they did during the 2016 election? Ballot dump. Virginia law requires the ballot language to be neutral, to be a neutral explanation. This language is clearly illegal. A court ruled as much, and Democrats ignored the court and waited for a different court to punt on the question till after the illegal referendum. Yep. All right, moving on. Let's see. I love the way this is framed. New congressional districts that would disenfranchise almost half of Virginia GOP voters are designated to restore fairness in the upcoming elections. Modern American policies is just lies piled upon lies. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? While ensuring Virginia's standard redistricting process resumes for all future redistricting. Okay, yeah, so they're wording it. It's another USAID. It's like, let's give it a name that sounds like we're doing some good. In this case, restore fairness in upcoming elections. In other words, we want to cheat and we need your help. This is insane. Virginia redistricting amendment on the ballot is framed as a vote to restore fairness. That's terrible. SPLC, a lot of stuff with the SPLC. They're doing illegal things. I think we're at the, okay, this is, nope. Okay. Outrageous. You almost saw it. Oh, you came so close there. You almost saw it. The part about advertising law enforcement on how to arrest those extremists. You're almost there. You're almost ready for the next step. That the people at those law enforcement agencies were in on it. They weren't. They weren't fooled. They weren't tricked. They were part of the scam. I believe it. What are the odds that unnamed senator who called the effort to pass the SAVE Act as a charade professes unqualified support for the bill when talking to the constituents and donors?
Supposedly, one of my colleagues called the effort to pass the Save America Act in the Senate a charade. Well, my guess is that whoever said that but didn't have the guts to put their name to it is somebody who's a co-sponsor of the Save America Act, who openly, actively tells his constituents that he's a co-sponsor of the Save America Act, and maybe even tells donors that in order to raise funds. Regardless, this isn't going away. I'm not going away. This thing's not a charade.